Hi, this is Zach Mayer with the US Chartbreakers here at Zach's Traders Cafe for Friday, the 2nd of May. Starting off with the S&P, which has done one of the things we wanted it to do, which was to get to the 50-day moving average, 55.91. After that, we're looking for the late March resistance towards 5800. Hopefully that would happen in the first half of this month, while we're above the recent support area towards 54.50. Ideally, there is no end-of-day close back below the 50-day line, but that might be asking a little bit too much. In terms of the RSI, we're through the neutral 50 level at 56, so right in the box seat as far as further gains here, and obviously we've just gapped up yesterday, which adds to the gap high that we had in the previous week. So it's a bear trap island reversal, one of the stronger charting configurations. Moving on to the Nasdaq, and here you can see that we also gapped through the 50-day line, which is a show of strength. What you can see here is that the RSI is around the 57, just under 58 level. So mirroring what we're seeing on the S&P, the view here is that echoing what we've got on the S&P above the 50-day line, 19,500. Looking for that late March resistance there at 20,200. The other point to note is that the turnaround here is a lopsided inverted head and shoulders, and basically we've actually gapped through the neckline there, looking for that peak from back in March. This stage, only well below 19,000, the support for midweek, really questioning the ongoing recovery for this market. Moving on to the stocks and starting off with fireworks here at above food ingredients. Here you can see that the shares have hit the top of that rising trend channel there from the summer of last year. So nominally yesterday's resistance, let's call it $3. End of day close above $3. We could be looking at a new leg to the upside, maybe as high as $5 by the end of this month. But ideally we stay above the $2 area, which was resistance on the way down back in August last year. Maybe you could stretch that down to $1.90, especially given the way that the RSI is now at 93, which is ultra overbought rather, after the recent massive gains. Stock we've been charting for a number of days. Here it has been EPWK, and here the story is of a stock which has blown the lights out on all our targets. So the first one there was the top of the channel there, around the $6 mark. Second one, $10, then around $11.50. $13 was a very optimistic target, and that's been blown out of the water. And since then, an extra optimistic $18, $19 the target. But all those levels have been taken out. Above the last target there, around $19, looking for as much as $33, the upper parallel of the latest red resistance line projection. RSI at 97, which is obviously rather on the high side, and so any dips towards that $19 area may be appreciated by some who have missed the boat on that situation. Moving on to Hub Cyber Security, where we've been looking for a turnaround. Looks like it may finally have been delivered, with the shares breaking out of that triangle formation. Initial resistance here towards $3.80. Ideally, we get to $4 plus on the 50-day moving average by the end of this month, and ideally we'd also like to stay above $2.50, which is recent broken resistance. Moving on to Classover, where we may have a U-shaped reversal. What's interesting here is that obviously there's not much charting data to go on, but there was a brief support area around the $4 level. Then that low, the next support there at 5, above 5, looking for the 50-day moving average there, just above $7.50. But I suppose the ideal scenario here is that whatever happens, we stay above that $4 mark. Moving on to more familiar territory with Meta, and here that same kind of inverted head and shoulders, the lopsided one that we've had in the wake of the tariff debacle. What's interesting here is that yesterday we hit a line of resistance there from the end of February. That was roughly around the 590 level. End of day close above that. We could be looking to the main resistance here at $6.30. Otherwise, perhaps a test of the recent broken resistance around $5.56 or the floor of the gap there just below $5.50 could be on the cards, but probably the easiest thing there is to wait for an end-of-day close through that 50-day line, currently around $5.85. Another familiar name is Microsoft, and here, after the inverted head and shoulders, we've gapped massively through the resistance zone around the $400 mark. What will be interesting here is whether we can find support around $420, which was resistance on the way down back in February. Above that, we're looking at the top of that broadening triangle there from the end of last year towards $460, hopefully sometime later this month. Looked at this stock, the next stock, quite a lot recently, and what's frustrating here is that obviously we've had the pullback from the top of that broadening triangle from back at the beginning of the beginning of September last year. The interesting part here is that we bounced off the floor of the gap there around $3. Above that, we are actually looking or hoping for at least a move back towards the 50-day moving average at $4.36. Ideally, we'd actually head back towards the top of the range at $8. But let's see, that gap fill rebound does the trick for the shares. The other thing maybe to wait for is the RSI getting back above neutral 50 versus just below 43 at the moment. Moving on to Palantir, and here, stock which has obviously had the pullback with the tariffs, but bounced back with a bear trap rebound from below $74. Gapped up last week and looking for the top of that rising trend channel from back in November. That is around the $1.36 level, 37 level. And we're looking for that over the next couple of weeks, especially while we remain above the recent swing low there around $110. So ideally 110 holds and we get into the mid-130s on Palantir. Another favorite here, well, largely because it's done what we wanted it to do, and more, is Regencell. Here, another situation where the shares have just got a life of their own with this sort of V-shaped rebound. We've had various targets here, $23, then $40, then thinking that $60 might be the top. But in fact, the latest target here is actually the upper parallel of that July 2023 resistance line projection, as high as $100. And we're looking for that by the end of this month. Ideally, there's no end-of-day close back below the recent peak there at $69. And if you're not in the situation, maybe you'd be looking for dips towards 69 to then position yourself for $100. Moving along to another situation which has exceeded expectations. We had a broadening triangle here and very little charting data to go on with SAGTEC, but the shares easily beating the top of that broadening triangle there at $4.30. Above that, we're looking for the upper parallel of that resistance line projection from back in March. That's implying a target as high as $6, which we're looking for by the end of this month, hopefully much sooner than that, given the way things are going at the moment. But what we don't want to see is an end-of-day close back below $4.30, the top of the triangle there. On to the last two. The first one is Taysha, and here, nice little bull flag, mid-move bull flag breakout through recent resistance around the $1.95 level. Above that, looking for the top of that falling trend channel, just shy of $3 rather. That falling trend channel in place since early last year, but probably at this stage, with a rising 50-day line and a bear trap rebound from below $1.50, and the rising 50-day line, we're looking for the $3 area to be the minimum on the upside for that particular situation. Finishing off with Vigil, and here we've got a rising trend channel base, top of the channel there, heading towards $3.50. We're looking for that, especially while we're above the 50-day moving average at $2. Maybe you could tighten that stop loss back down to the $2.10 area, given that that was the rebound zone at the end of March. But at least while we're above the $2 level, looking for $3.50 on Vigil. That's it for me today. More updates over the weekend.